What is up, everybody? It's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and today I am doing what so many of you have been asking me to do. I am about to break down all of the best and all of the craziest theories about Deku's father and why we still haven't officially met him in the series. Is Deku's father secretly a villain who leads a double life? Is he someone that we've already met before and just don't realize it yet? Or did he just go out to buy some cigarettes one day and never came back? At the end of the video, I will be revealing the absolute craziest theory about Deku's dad that I have ever heard, and I first saw it only recently in the comment section of one of my videos, so definitely watch until the end. The truth about Deku's dad is one of the most hotly debated topics in the entire MHA fandom, so let's get into it. If you guys enjoy our MHA content, including these theory type videos, definitely leave a like and comment to let us know. It only takes a second, but it helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you're new to the channel or maybe you watch our videos but you just haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a quick favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that bell to turn on all notifications. It seems like a small thing, but with the way that YouTube works now, you have to do it if you want to see our videos, otherwise you might miss all of them. Finally, this video will of course contain MHA manga spoilers. I am dealing with all of the available information so far, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Now, according to Viz.com, at the 2018 Comic-Con, the author of MHA, Kohei Horikoshi, confirmed that Deku's father will be revealed at some point in the story. He won't just stay a big question mark forever. We will learn the truth about him eventually, at least that's what the author of the series claims. And with the MHA manga officially entering its final phase or final act, the time to properly introduce Deku's dad is running out. In fact, as we approach the inevitable final showdown between Deku and awakened Shigaraki, the only way that Deku's father can play any sort of role in the story is if he shows up sometime soon. I mean, unless he's already been introduced and we just don't know it yet. So, what do we know for sure about Deku's father? His name is Hisashi Midoriya, and as is the case with many character names in Boku no Hero, the word Hisashi is a play on words. Hisashi can be translated as a long time ago. And if used in the expression Hisashiburi, it means it's been a while since I saw you last. And if Horikoshi was serious about the claim that Deku's father will be revealed in the story, then Deku might be saying Hisashiburi to his dad sometime soon. Hisashi possesses a quirk that allows him to breathe fire, and he is legally married to Inko. He also works abroad, and that is why he's never around, although we are not sure where exactly he works or what his job is. Inko is said to have basically brought Deku up alone, so how often does Deku even see his dad? Does Deku even know what his dad looks like? Horikoshi must have known that Deku's father's constant absence would become a meme, and while it is an entertaining meme for us as readers, within the world of MHA, his absence has to make sense. It can't just be a meme. There has to be some good reason why he's never around, and why we never see Deku or his mom talking about him or even contacting him by phone. The most boring theory, but the one that seemed to make the most sense at first, was that Deku's father really was just some ordinary guy who happens to work abroad. Since Deku's dad wasn't playing any role in the story whatsoever, and since there are many Japanese companies who send their workers to work in other countries, it wasn't too hard to accept the idea that Hisashi Midoriya was just a normal guy with a demanding job. But as the story went on, this ordinary guy theory seemed to become less and less believable. If Deku's dad was just a normal guy and Horikoshi wanted us to know that, then what's with all the secrecy surrounding his whereabouts? Why don't we ever see Inko and Deku talking about him or talking to him on the phone? Why doesn't he ever come to visit his family? Why doesn't his family visit him? Why isn't he in any of the flashbacks? I mean, working abroad is one thing, but you would still get vacation time and you would still want to see your family and stay in touch with them. Now, if Deku's dad left him and his mother and they were not on good terms, then maybe this lack of communication would make more sense. But there is no indication that Inko and Hisashi are separated or divorced, and there is no indication that Deku's dad intentionally abandoned his family. I mean, think about it this way. Bakugo's dad is just an ordinary guy, but because we've seen him around once in a while just doing ordinary things, we don't have a bunch of lingering questions about his true identity. We know that he's just a normal dude with a smoking hot wife. So, if Deku's dad is supposed to be something similar, just a normal guy who works abroad, then why not just show him once in a while? Why not show him visiting his family, or his family going to visit him, or just Deku talking to him on the phone or something like that? Hisashi would be a lot less suspicious if it didn't seem like his identity was deliberately being hidden from us to the point that it becomes jarring. If Deku's father is still happily married to Inko, and if he is alive and well, then it is distractingly strange that Deku doesn't make more of an effort to stay in touch with his dad, and that he never talks about his dad in either a positive or negative light. In chapter 328, we finally got one potential clue for what Hisashi Midoriya might be doing abroad, but this is just speculation on my part. In that chapter, we are introduced to an international organization that appears to be the MHA version of the United Nations. And this organization, which seems to have representatives from every country, is debating about whether or not to send international heroes to help with the villain crisis in Japan. Now that's all fine and good, but there was one weird thing about this scene that stood out to me. The people who work for this international organization all had their faces hidden in silhouette, as if their identity was being concealed from us on purpose. I have no idea why their identity would be concealed, unless maybe one of these people is actually Deku's dad, and Horikoshi doesn't want us to pick up on the physical similarities. If Hisashi had some important job, such as an international diplomat, then the fact that he is away and can't come to visit often would make sense. And if his job is diplomatically sensitive in nature, then it would make sense for Deku and Inko to not want to talk about it publicly. Still, even important diplomats are allowed to contact their families, so this still wouldn't explain why Deku doesn't ever seem to talk to his father, unless he is talking to him like off screen and we never get to see it, but again, that would be strange. All in all, the Deku's dad is an ordinary guy scenario is pretty unsatisfactory. Again, if he's just some ordinary guy, why no phone calls? Why no visits? Why no flashbacks in which he actually appears? All of this has led many to speculate that the truth about Deku's father could be far more sinister. He could be living a double life as a major villain, and maybe even the main villain of the entire series, All for One. Now, the idea that All for One might actually be Deku's father has been around for a very long time. I made a video talking about this theory over 3 years ago, and the theory itself has been around even longer than that. I just recently talked about this theory with fellow anime YouTuber Zonin, who's also done videos on this topic in the past, and who collabed with me on a video about Shigaraki's quirk Decay possibly being stolen from Deku. I will link that video in the description if you want to check it out. As this theory goes, All for One manipulated both Inko and Deku as part of an elaborate plan to steal strong next-gen quirks from children. He assumed the identity of a normal guy with a normal life. He used one of his many quirks to convince Inko that he had a fire-breathing quirk, and then he seduced Inko and convinced her to marry him. Eventually they had Deku, and All for One was hoping that Deku would either inherit his own quirk All for One, or manifest another really strong quirk that he could steal. If this were to happen, with the help of Ujiko, All for One could steal whatever quirk Deku got, without Deku or Inko ever finding out. So, the reason why Deku never sees his father is because after stealing Deku's quirk, All for One had no more interest in him. And of course, after All for One was physically disfigured by All Might, he had no choice but to abandon Inko and Deku, since he would have no way of explaining to them why a normal person would sustain horrible combat injuries like the one All for One sustained. A few other points are often raised to support this theory, including the fact that Inko's resemblance to Nana Shimura has been emphasized multiple times in the story. According to the theory, there may be some connection between Inko and Nana that attracted All for One to Inko in the first place. Another point that is constantly raised is the Star Wars comparison, and the idea that the relationship between Deku and All for One could be similar to the relationship between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Horikoshi loves Star Wars. He included multiple direct references to Star Wars in the MHA story, and All for One's mask is clearly inspired by Darth Vader's mask. Many fans believe that all of these Star Wars references constitute clues about the true nature of the relationship between Deku and All for One, something that will only be revealed at the climax of the entire story. Personally, I find this theory to be intriguing, but at the end of the day, I don't think it will turn out to be true. If All for One really was Deku's father, he would presumably know that his own son became All Might's disciple and the latest inheritor of One for All. So, why hasn't All for One ever acknowledged this in any way? Why hasn't he tried to contact his son and convince him to join the dark side? Maybe this theory would have made sense before Deku became a major hero in the world of MHA and before Deku came face to face with awakened Shigaraki in the battle for Jakku, but with everything that's happened up to this point, it would be very strange for All For One to never acknowledge the fact that the single biggest obstacle to all of his master plans is actually his own son. Maybe this could make sense if All For One didn't know that Deku was his son, but then how would that have happened? Ujiko clearly knows that Inko has a son, and if All For One was involved with Inko in the past, he would obviously be able to put 2 and 2 together. So yeah, this is a fun theory, but if he really chose to go this route, Horikoshi would have a hard time explaining why this information was kept completely hidden from everyone for so long. But even if Deku's father is not the main villain of the story, he could still be a villain. What if the real reason why Deku's dad is never around is because he is leading a double life as a villain? He tells his wife and son that he is working abroad, but in reality he is engaged in criminal activity, and he chooses to stay as far away from his family as possible in order to keep them safe from his dangerous life. This theory is definitely plausible, and I think it's more plausible than the All For One theory. I feel like Inko would never willingly get with a villain, but she is a very trusting person, so if her husband is leading a double life behind her back, I could definitely see her being tricked by it. But even if all of that is plausible, it still has to make sense from a narrative perspective. Why would Deku's dad be a villain, and what exactly has he been doing all this time? Is he a villain that we've already met before but just don't realize it yet? Or is he a villain who has been operating separately from the villains that we've been exposed to so far? In order for Deku's dad to be a villain and a compelling character at the same time, his motivations for doing what he is doing will have to make sense. Why would he leave a loving family behind and engage in a life of crime, all the while keeping that life secret from his family? Since he does have a family, and since he has been protecting them by keeping his distance all this time, he can't be all bad. So then why did he choose to become a villain, and what drives his actions? Honestly, this could be a really cool twist if it is handled properly, if the motivations make sense, and if the reveal itself is made in an effective way at some extremely important point in the story. And now, before I get to the craziest theory I've ever seen, let's talk about my personal pet theory, which I also mentioned in that video from over 3 years ago. I think that Hisashi Midoriya might really be leading a double life, but not because he's a villain. I think he might be an undercover agent who infiltrated a villain group either in Japan or abroad, and that is why he hasn't been in touch with his family and why everything about him is so secretive. Undercover agents have to completely alter their lives for their undercover assignments, and often they have to cut off all contact with friends and family. Deku's dad's behavior is definitely consistent with someone on a top secret undercover mission. Maybe a mission that involves international villain syndicates, international criminals, and international heroes. And with international heroes like Stars and Stripes now entering the story, this might be the perfect time to finally introduce Hisashi Midoriya as an undercover international hero who finally returns to Japan in its time of need. This scenario is one of the few possible scenarios that could realistically explain why Hisashi has been missing for so long without his absence being nothing more than a meme. So that is why I personally like this theory. Okay, it is finally time to talk about the craziest, mind-breaking theory about the tragic fate of Deku's father, Hisashi Midoriya. In that MHA video that I talked about previously, I discussed the theory that Shigaraki was actually born quirkless and that his quirk Decay was secretly transferred to him by All For One when he was 5 years old. A second component of that theory states that the original owner of Decay was actually Deku, but his quirk was stolen from him by Ujiko and All For One when he was still a newborn baby, and then later this same quirk was given to Shigaraki. The theory itself was fun and everything, but then I saw a comment that contained the craziest theory about Deku's dad that I had ever seen. A commenter named Gomibako said that if Deku really was born with Decay, maybe while he was still a baby, he accidentally activated the quirk and killed his own father, kind of like Eri accidentally killed her dad with her quirk Rewind. Deku's mother then made a deal with Dr. Ujiko to take this dangerous quirk away from her son before he accidentally hurts more people, and she covered the whole thing up in order to protect Deku from the heartbreaking truth: the fact that he accidentally killed his own father when he was just a baby. Everything we know about Hisashi, including his working abroad and his fire-breathing quirk, could just be part of Inko's cover-up. In this scenario, Inko would have to have been in on the cover-up with Ujiko, which is why when she and little Deku met up with Ujiko a few years later to talk about Deku's lack of a quirk, Inko looked almost guilty and ashamed while talking to the doctor. This theory is interesting because normally I would never think that Inko would be capable of such deception. But the one possible exception would be if she felt that she was protecting Deku from a really dark and tragic truth. If she felt that the truth would hurt her son and probably scar him for life, she may be willing to outright lie to him for decades for his own good. Now, I don't think that this theory is very likely, but I do appreciate how dark and insane it actually is. And if it did turn out to be true, it would absolutely blow the mind of every fan. Alright guys, now it's time for you to give me your theories and opinions about Deku's dad, Hisashi. Is he just a normal guy? Is he a villain? Is he an undercover agent? Have we already met him at some point in the story? Or is he actually dead? Let me know down below. I always love hearing from you. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to leave that like. It actually helps a lot. And if you're new to Anime Uproar or you watch our videos but you just haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, it would actually help me out a lot if you subscribed, hit that bell, and select the option that says all. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Anime Uproar. And of course, a big thank you to all of our Anime Uproar patrons who make videos like this one possible. Special thank you to Alpha Sigma. This guy is an absolute mad lad and a disciple of Lord Twigo himself. And I can't forget all of our The One tier patrons, the ones that rise above all other clans, including Ingrata, Aljatal, Pate Hefa, Hinokami and Water, The Toasted Chi, Corey McGowan, The Spike, 8227, Kaido Might Be a Gyarados, Dylan Isidore, Spidey Life Tanel, Tungsten Tarkus, Baked Buddhist, Cody Hebert, and Jeremy Cummings. Finally, thank you also to our Pro Hero tier patrons, including the one and only Gilgamesh, The Red-Haired Raven, Steelers, Angel Cruz, Very Gucci, Alicia Octor, Bonnie Parks, Joanne Garcia, Fatboy Games, and Jessica Rabbit. If you enjoy our videos and you feel that they provide value to you, consider supporting us on Patreon. Even a single dollar will give you access to our Patreon-exclusive Discord, and your name will appear in our videos, along with these legendary people. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!